Welcome to our show. You're listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections, a place to learn about and celebrate creative arts therapy. Each week we'll explore new ways that music, art, and dance can reach, connect with, and help individuals of all stages of health and wellness. Hi, I'm Bree, Beynon, a board-certified music therapist and the managing partner for the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. Tune in as I interview professionals from healthcare and educational backgrounds on the impact of the creative arts. If you prefer to watch our live video stream, simply visit www.pbmti.com. Hello, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Beynon, board-certified music therapist and neurologic music therapist here locally in Southeast Florida with the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. We are a private practice serving medical, educational, and community-based settings with music therapy services. If this is something new, your first time listening in, I'm so glad you're here. The purpose of this show is to shine a light on some of the creative arts and holistic and integrative therapies that are out in our community, that are taking a look at some of the issues that people face every single day, no matter where they are in their walk of life, and come up with a solution that's maybe a little bit outside the box, a little bit creative. So we're kind of in this theme that, again, as I say each week, just kind of fell together. I'd love to say that I actually planned all of this, but we've just been on this kind of holistic theme lately. And just to review, going back a few weeks, and if you missed any of these topics and you're really interested in them, want to catch up, you can find all of our shows archived at pbmti.com. If you find the Connections banner, a big purple banner, that's our show. And all past shows are logged there. So you're welcome to check out our website, check the videos out. There's some really great conversations. So I do encourage you to do that if you have missed anything in the last several weeks. We started out probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago talking about mindfulness, this idea of mindfulness and being present in the moment, the importance of that, why it is such a big buzzword that's being heard throughout the medical community, and why and how it's helping people, how professionals are using it to help those, and how people can use it in their own lives to help them, how professionals can use it in their own lives. So meaningful for those we care for and also for the caregiver, which is really important to identify both of those roles. Talked about mindfulness. We talked about acupuncture as an avenue for holistic healing, sound healing. Got to hear some beautiful acutonics, which is a new instrument that I learned about, which is a tone chime that is used in the acupuncture process. Sound healing with the Tibetan bowls. If you were able to hear that through the show, they were just beautiful. And just hearing the ring of that was enough to send chills and that endorphin release from such a gorgeous sound. So we covered, oh my gosh, so many things. Again, so many different ways of mindfulness, how music can be helpful in mindfulness, these different approaches to holistic healing. And then last week focused on self-care. So I just want to touch back in with those of you who listened last week and heard Kelly and my conversation about self-care, the importance of it, why I think you should listen to a music therapist who has figured this out or is on the journey to figuring it out. Because again, we are tough on ourselves. We work hard, just like so many of you do out there, no matter what field you're working in. No one is exempt from needing to work on this idea of self-care, of self-love. So please check in with us on our social media. We've got Karen on social media tonight, on our Twitter, PBMTI, on our Facebook page, Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute, and let us know. From last week to now, check back in. What's something you did for yourself for self-care, or even just thought about, or even made a plan to do? It doesn't have to be anything grandiose. It can be as simple as, again, my favorite from last week, ice cream for dinner. Now, that's not going to be a very popular idea today as we're talking about nutrition, so maybe I might get yelled at for that one, but I thought it was great for last week. This week, we're going to learn about being healthy and how we can use food in our everyday lives to enrich this idea of wellness. So just to back up a little bit, I just want to tell a quick story. This last 2 days, I have been doing career day at a local school. So yesterday, I was doing kindergarten through second grade. Today, I did third through sixth grade. Two let these kids know what I do as a music therapist. And I kind of thought this is going to be a really abstract concept to get across. There's not many adults I know that have any understanding of what I do until I explain it to them, or till they hear about it, or maybe hear Gabby Gifford's story or read Sing You Home. But how am I going to explain it to 5 through 10-year-olds? And it wasn't as hard as I thought. It came from the approach of what music can do for our minds and what music can do for our bodies. And I asked the kids, does that make sense to you? Do you think music can help our minds? It can help our bodies? Enthusiastically are like, yes, I get that. So how does music help our minds? I got the most incredible answers from it teaches us patterns. It helps us learn. It helps us remember things, pay attention. I loved one kid said, we talked about the emotions of it. It can help you feel happy when you're feeling sad, when you're feeling angry, you can use music. And one kid said today, it makes you feel surprised. And that just took me right into that mindfulness moment of like, yeah, that's such a great way of describing it, that when you're listening to a song for the first time, or maybe first time in a while, and there's just this part in it where it just escalates and the instruments come in, or word or a melody line you weren't expecting comes in, and you can feel surprise from that. What an exciting moment to experience music. I guess you can fast forward it. I don't know why you'd want to, but especially a live performance, you can't fast forward it. You can't skip out on it. You have to take it note for note, moment for moment, living in that moment, being mindful. And for this kid in elementary school to say, music makes me feel surprised, and with a big smile on his face, not in a bad way. It was really, really awesome. And then I said, what does it do to our bodies? And got a lot of great answers, how it can help relax us. A lot of kids are using music to relax, to unwind, which is so cool. And also a lot of kids are putting headphones on to go jogging and get moving. Kids are even telling me it helps my heart rate. Helps get my heart rate, helps make me healthy, gets me moving. I get up and I get dancing. I just thought, like I said, they blew me away. Every classroom was just so awesome. And then we did some examples together of ways they maybe didn't even realize. If you're using this every day of your life, you maybe didn't even realize how music is helping you because it's fun. It's kind of sneaking in that back door to help us. We don't even realize that we're building new pathways in our brain, that we're developing muscles because music has motivated us to get up and get moving. So I just had to share that experience. I totally underestimated the response I was going to get, and it was awesome. And they got it. And I said at the end, I'm like, what am I? What do I do? You're a music therapist. A classroom full of 20, 30 kids shouting that back. Let me tell you, if people don't know what you do for a career and you can hear that back, that's awesome. It's a cool feeling. So thank you to that school for letting us come out and do that. It was a great experience. Again, we're going to be keeping on our wellness track today, but focusing a little bit on nutrition and what are some healthy habits, not to have to go tomorrow, change everything, go overboard, but what are some healthy habits we can start to enter into our everyday life, our everyday routine. This hit me over the head a few years ago when I was having several health issues, and finally had to address it, that I was going to have to cut gluten out of my diet completely. And I am like on the road, no office. My car is my office. A Big Mac got me from point A to point B just about every day. And so I was like, there's no way I can commit to this. There's no way I can make a change like this. But I'm getting married soon, and my skin is a mess. I'm not feeling good. I'll just do it until then, so that I can look my best, and then I'll go right back to my ways. I couldn't believe the impact it made. And just the 5 months I gave that process, my whole body was changed. I was so much healthier, had so much more energy. My joints were better. My skin was better. Everything was improved because I removed something from my diet that I had no idea was affecting me so much. And this is years of medications and procedures and doctor's appointments and specialists. I mean, years of this, money, and time and energy and frustration and meds that were not helping. And not to say that they're to replace medication, but in this instance, in this one particular instance, a diet change changed my whole life. It was really incredible. So I am a big believer in it. I'm still not the healthiest person in the world. I'll be the first to admit it. I still find ways to hit up fast food because I'm on the road all the time. So hopefully Des can help me with that a little bit. I know a lot of us professionals are on the road. And throughout the day, I mean, our options are sometimes limited. So she's going to give us some motivating tips for that. I have a really cool blog that I wanted to read for you from our friends at the Hippocrates Health Institute, which is here in West Palm Beach. A little bit about them. They're set in just this gorgeous 50-acre. If you haven't gone out to visit there and get a tour and see what they're all about there, it is just absolutely beautiful. Guests from all over the world benefit from health and nutritional counseling, non-invasive remedial and youth-enhancing therapies, a state-of-the-art spa services, inspiring talks of life principles, and tantalizing daily buffet of enzyme-rich organic meals. Our goal at the Hippocrates Health Institute is to assist people in taking responsibility for their lives, help them internalize and actualize an existence free from premature aging, disease, and needless pain. And this is from their blog on their website. This is 12 immune system boosters. So this fits really well into that self-care. I mean, I don't know what's going on other places, but I know that people are getting sick right now. I mean, it comes in waves, and a lot of people are not feeling good. So anything we can do as simple as just making a diet change. Some of these things that we'll read might sound extreme. You find what's comfortable for you, but there's something for everybody in here. So these are 12 immune system booster ideas from the Hippocrates Health Institute here in West Palm Beach. Get outdoors and into the sun. Pretty easy for us to do in South Florida, not today as it's kind of monsooning outside. But generally, get out into the sun for 20 to 30 minutes daily. Get direct or indirect sunlight. The best times are before 9 a.m. and after 3 p.m. As we know, in between there can be a little intense. Or in the winter after 6 p.m. Before 9 a.m. or after 3 p.m. in the winter or after 6 p.m. in the summer. Allow the full spectrum sunlight to enter your eyes by not wearing sunglasses during this time. The sun is the most powerful immune system builder. Awesome. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a big fan of the sun. So I am all about that. Consume adequate oxygen. Put yourself in or near an oxygen-rich environment. Oceans, forests, running, streams, greenhouses, and learn to breathe deeply. It always comes back to breath. How simple? How simple is that? Eat plenty of oxygen-rich green foods. If you are indoors most of the day, purchase an oxygen-producing air purifier. Drink pure water. The best water purification processes are distilled or molecule organized. Consume in ounces the amount equal to 1/2 of your body weight in pounds. Add safe oxygen enhancing products to your drinking water. Eat a vegan diet that is comprised of 75% or more of raw food by volume. This is what they specialize there in nutrition at Hippocrates. Sprouts and green vegetables are the most balanced and nourishing choices. Drink freshly made beverages from sprouted green vegetables twice a day. Use regular blue-green algae, super blue-green algae or Hawaiian spirulina, along with chlorella, are high-quality concentrated foods that enhance immunity. Stop using immune-suppressing ingredients, including salt, refined sugars, flours, dairy products, vinegars, heated oils, and food preservatives, additives, stabilizers, and colorings. Again, start where you're comfortable. Des is going to give us some tips on this. We know that it's not an overnight process. Avoid microwaved and fried foods, which can suppress the immune system and lead to cancers and heart and circulatory diseases. Eliminate alcohol and drugs. Unless your prescriptions are absolutely essential to your survival, stop taking them. Alcohol and drugs do not mix except to undermine our immune systems. Exercise moderately. Engage in stretching, aerobic, and resistant exercises at least 5 times a week for 30 to 60 minutes a day. Get adequate rest. Very important that a lot of us do not do. Sleep and rest helps to recharge the immune system. As part of this strategy, rest the entire body once a week on a juice and water fast. This enables the immune system to do a weekly cleanup. So important. This is my favorite, although I love sun and being by the ocean. Those are great ones too. Keep a smile on your face. Maintaining a positive attitude is key to having a belief system that supports immunity. Read the book Anatomy of an Illness by Norman Cousins for a primer on how laughter and humor can enhance the human immune system. Nature, color, sound, music, and laughter can positively affect the immune system. all good news. We promote all of those things on the show. We're going to be talking a lot about it today. When we come back from a brief commercial break, I'm going to be introducing to you Desiree Bass, a music therapist turned Master's of Science in Applied Clinical Nutrition. She's going to give us tools to help us live a healthier lifestyle. We'll see you after this commercial break.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses, with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Beynon, and I'm thrilled to get to introduce to you, calling all the way from my home area of Rochester, New York, Desiree Bass, who is a music therapist and also has her master's in Applied Clinical Nutrition. Are you there, Des?
I'm here.
Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to call in tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So as I've kind of let you know before the show, and maybe if you were able to hear a little earlier, we've been on this kind of track lately, talking about different facets of wellness. And I know that it's a passion of yours, so we're going to dive right into that. Before that, I just wondered if you could give us a little bit of a background on you, how you came into music therapy, and how you got interested in and following your passion into nutrition.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I got my bachelor's in music from Beynon University, and, after I graduated, I was like, well, what do you do with a bachelor's in music? So I did a little bit of researching, and I found music therapy, and so I attended Nazareth College and got my master's in music therapy.
Go Naz!
And, yeah, and I did my music therapy internship at the Children's Hospital up here in Rochester, Dallas Arnold Children's Hospital. And while I was there, I primarily worked with children with cancer and blood disorders and patients with eating disorders. And then after my internship, I was hired by a company that provides music therapy services for children in special education. And I was working with kids from preschool all the way up through high school, and we were focusing on goals on their IEP. And I worked for that company for a couple of years, and there were some things that I really enjoyed about my job, but there was also a part of me that kind of felt like it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And so it took a lot of thinking and reflection, but I finally ended up deciding to leave that position, and I did a little bit of soul searching and a little researching, and I decided to go back to school, and I found this nutrition program senior at Chiropractic College, and spent another 2 years in school and got my master's in nutrition. So it's kind of an interesting mix, but I think it was the right choice for me. So now I work in an office up here in the Rochester area. I work along with a chiropractor, and I used to see clients and help them with their health needs.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations for finishing that program. I know it's been kind of a new step for you and a new journey as you've developed your own practice. So that's awesome. And I love, like you said, it is kind of interesting, and I don't know of it. Do you know other music therapists who've gone into this path?
I don't know. I mean, it would be really interesting to talk to someone else that has a similar path, but no, I don't. But, I think it is really interesting, and I think it also kind of gives me an interesting perspective. And I'm really thankful for my music therapy background, especially all the psychology and the counseling classes that I got in my music therapy program, because I think that it helps me to be a better nutrition counselor.
Sure.
Like when I'm talking to clients, like we can kind of get into some heavy stuff sometimes. This is people's health that we're talking about. So I think it's really important to be able to meet people where they are in their life and to be able to express empathy and support them in whatever way they may need at that point. So, and when I was in my nutrition program, several of my classmates expressed that they wish that we had an intro to counseling class included in our program, just because they recognize the importance of having basic counseling skills and how that would be necessary in the future.
Absolutely. As I'm sure we're going to, talk about a little bit more in depth later, food is a big part of our lives, of our culture, that I don't feel like we talk about so much, how people use food in different ways. And so I think there is a lot to that that's beyond body, but as we're going to chat about with wellness is mind too. It's a huge component, I would think.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So how would you define this broad idea of wellness? So if someone what's your kind of elevator speech on what is wellness?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think wellness is a term that's used in the holistic health world, and I'm seeing it more and more. It seems to be popping up a lot now as more people are getting interested in alternative therapies and alternative health care. And probably if we were to ask 10 different wellness experts how they define wellness, we would probably get about 10 different answers. Sure. But that's kind of the neat thing about it, is everyone has their own personal definition of what wellness is, and that, tends to change as we learn and develop and grow over time. But I think my definition of wellness would be that it's not just not being sick. It's being in an optimal state of health. I think that in Western medicine, we use the terms sickness and health a lot of the times, and health means that you're not sick. Well, wellness, I think, is a lot broader than that. So it's very multidimensional, and it encompasses your lifestyle, your physical health, mental health, emotional health, and spiritual health. And it really looks at the whole person, including, of course, their physical health, but also their relationships, their stress levels, their self-care habits, and overall happiness and well-being. And so as we talk today about developing an attitude of wellness, I would just encourage people to maybe think about what does wellness mean for you, and what are you doing to be more mindful of your own wellness.
I love it. And can you just kind of expand a little bit of, as I love how you put it, developing that attitude. So, in my first segment today, giving lots of tips and we've been talking about lots of different ideas for wellness, but it goes beyond trying something on. Feel free to try different things on, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like that's a good thing to find a good fit, but this idea of developing an attitude, it makes it a habit that you're not having to work so hard on trying to remember, because it's become habitual at this point, this idea of wellness. So what does that mean to you, to develop an attitude of wellness?
Well, I think it just means, just kind of deciding what point you are at in your life. And I feel like sometimes people kind of get to a point where they're maybe stuck in something, and they realize, well, maybe I need to make a change. And, I think it's just like being able to reflect inwards and to understand really what's going on with yourself. And, just being willing to maybe make those changes, take those steps, seek out advice, and just committing to your own journey of health. And,
it's the saying, and maybe I'm misquoting it, but, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? This idea, I think, of just like mindfulness or meditation or committing to one of these alternative or complementary therapies that we've been talking about, it can seem overwhelming if it's not something you've ever done before. So what would you say to someone who's approaching you in that way, and that it's just too overwhelming? I can't do it. That's not me. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, totally. Well, of course, we don't expect people to change overnight. There are, it depends on the personality type, of course. There are some people who are very just, they wake up one day and they're like, all right, I'm ready to change, and it's cold turkey. But most people really aren't that way. And so I would encourage them just to take baby steps, just make small changes. So, if I'm working with someone and they're really trying to change their diet, but they don't feel like they can, completely make an overnight change, well, obviously the first thing that I would want someone to do is try and take out, processed foods and sugar, but that might even be too big of a step for them. So maybe we would just, focus on the sugar, and that might break down to just like, well, maybe we'll just try to cut down on your sugary drink intake. We'll focus on that. And then once you kind of are successful with these small goals, then you are willing and able to take on more and more. But really, the first step in solving any problem is recognizing that there is a problem, right? So, and I think it takes some people a while to get there, and, you have to have the knowledge in order to start the process in the first place. So that might be, seeing a nutrition counselor or going to a nutrition class or, doing your own research. And it may seem tough at first and definitely overwhelming, but it does become easier as you continue to make changes that support your health and that make you feel better. And I think that you were speaking to that earlier in the show about when you first started cutting gluten out. So I'm sure that you just started feeling so much better, and so you didn't even want to go back to the old ways.
Oh, and I never would have thought that. I never would have thought that I could look at bread coming out to the dinner table when I would be very hungry, every work thing you go to. I think that's really tough too, is the environment you're in, and every work party. Mm-hmm. It's pizza, it's donuts, it's this, it's that. And I never thought that I would be at the point where I would look at it and think, it is just not even worth it. I'm not even tempted,
Yeah.
But you do get to that point, because once you start feeling the benefits of it, the payoff is worth it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just depends, your whole mindset changes, I think. And, you learn to make substitutions or to change behaviors. And after a while, it just, it's just second nature to you.
Yeah. And you surprise yourself in that way. I know I did anyways. I've become like a professional food label reader. I never did that before. I didn't have these habits before, but now I'm looking at the labels of everything. But one thing is, I'm thankful in that my husband cooks, right? But not everybody has that situation, and I don't cook. What do you say to someone who says that part is not part of my skill set or my everyday life? I don't cook. I don't read the labels. I don't really know how to grocery shop. What are some simple guiding steps to give someone in a position like that just from the very beginning?
Yeah, and that's very common, actually. And I think that more and more people are not really cooking. I think it's becoming sort of a lost art in our society, which I think is kind of sad. But, as people are just focused on their careers, they're busy, and maybe didn't grow up in a household where there was a lot of cooking being done. So, again, that's another skill that people may need to learn, or if they're lucky enough like you, maybe they have someone that cooks for them. But yeah, absolutely, learning how to cook, and definitely learning how to read labels, which is very confusing for a lot of people. And honestly, it's things like that really made me want to go into nutrition, because I was feeling confused myself. For a long time, I was trying to live healthy, and I was doing a lot of things that I thought were healthy, but now that I look back, I realize that they really weren't. Because food marketing, they're very smart about how they market food, and they promote things as being healthy and good for you that really aren't. And I think as you start really looking at the labels and finding out what's in your food, you realize that, oh, maybe this wasn't the best for me at all. So, and these are things that I work with people. I talk and go into detail about reading labels, and I have some resources that I give to people. Also doing grocery store tours are really, really helpful because a lot of people are just very intimidated to go to the grocery store these days. I mean, you go and there's thousands upon thousands of products and people don't know what to buy. So I really think if you are at a point where you are just feeling overwhelmed and not sure what to do, that seeking out help, seeking out a nutritionist or, going to a nutrition class or, just finding like-minded people that maybe can help support you along the way.
I think I love what you're saying, and it's so simple. Start with those things. I am a person who's afraid of the grocery store, unless it's Wegmans, which I miss very much. But I fortunately don't have Wegmans down here anymore. So I don't know what to look for. I don't know where it is. I love to talk to people, so I don't mind stopping every employee and asking them where it is, but I'm sure they don't love that. What aisle is this in? What aisle is that in? So I think that would be so helpful to have that walkthrough, especially if you know what kind of diet you're going to be on, and just kind of having parameters for that. I can see how that would be so impactful. One more question I want to ask before we cut to a quick commercial break is, what is some advice? And I know that this is a process. This is a coaching process. This is a counseling process. And I'm asking for little tidbits just so that if someone listening is interested, they can reach out to get more information. But what is kind of the Reader's Digest version that you would tell a traveling professional or a caregiver who's driving between places to care for someone who really needs to stay strong, and sometimes the best option, or the easiest option, I should say, is just to grab that fast food on the go? How do you help someone in that situation?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. And I remember back when I was a traveling music therapist, that was always a struggle for me. I wouldn't pack a lunch, and then midday would come, and I would be starving, and I would find myself in the McDonald's drive-thru, as much as I hate to admit it.
Mm-hmm. I came clean earlier. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. So I think the biggest thing is learning to plan ahead. This is so, so important, and I really think this is the make or break part. You have to plan your meals ahead of time so that, it's the morning and you're rushing out the door and trying to make sure you have everything, maybe doing some last-minute session planning in your head. I know that we all do it. And the last thing you want to think about is, what you're going to eat that day. Mm-hmm. So I would really recommend that people try to plan ahead the night before, maybe pack a cooler. Just some quick ideas would be obviously maybe some cut up vegetables, some fruit. If you can get some protein powder and keep it in your car and just mix it with a bottle of water, that's a great snack for the middle of the day. Making smoothies ahead of time, putting them in the freezer and then grabbing them, keeping them in the car, and then by midday they will be thawed out. And just making sure that you have things with you, keeping nuts and seeds and maybe a nitrate-free beef stick or some cheese sticks or things in your car like that, so that you're not going to the drive-thru or stopping at the gas station because you've hit the wall middle of the day.
Great, simple, easy to do tricks that I think would surprise people. I'm not saying that I do all of these things. I don't. But I have tried to implement some of this, especially the snacking, keeping, nuts and seeds and things like that in my car, dried fruits, things like that. It's made a big difference in my energy and my frequency to the McDonald's line. So
yeah, and they're so much more satisfying too, and they won't give you that blood sugar crash an hour later.
Right, absolutely. Hang around, Des. We're going to cut to a quick commercial break and continue this conversation in just a few moments. Thanks so much.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Beynon. I have Desiree Bass on the phone, a music therapist turned nutrition counselor. Are you still there, Des?
I'm here.
Wonderful. We're getting lucky today. We have horrible weather down here, and the show before me kept losing the calls, so I'm knocking on everything. I'm so glad that it's worked out. You were able to call in all the way from Rochester, New York. So glad to have you on. Last week's show, we were talking about self-care, which obviously this falls in line with so well, and the importance of saying no sometimes, which many of us have a lot of issues doing. And we want to be helpful. We want to be taking care of those around us. So our immediate response is to say yes to every opportunity. So we identified some areas where it might be helpful to set that boundary, say no. And that idea of saying no is very helpful in your line of work as well, it would seem to me.
Yes, that's right. And I totally agree. I think learning to say no is such a valuable tool in so many of our lives, and it definitely relates to nutrition also. And I think it just goes along with everything that we're talking about today, that people just find, you get to a point where you're like, you know what, that isn't benefiting me anymore. That's not helping me. It's making me feel worse. And whatever that might be, for some people, it might be sugar, for some people like you, it might be gluten, it might be dairy for other people, so whatever it is, like once you have the information, and then you can actually put that knowledge into action and just kind of try to find alternatives. And, the thing is, like, it really makes people feel empowered knowing that they are in charge. And knowing that they are capable of making healthy choices and that they are in charge of how they feel. So I think when people get to that point where they're ready to make some changes and they start just making alternative food choices, it really just changes so many aspects of their life.
It fits in well with what we've been talking about, is also recognizing that really, when we think about it, there's only so much in this world we actually have control over. We don't have control over what, someone else may say to us, or a circumstance that occurs to us, the weather, the traffic, whatever it may be. All we can do is really control our response to things. And this is a huge area. Again, I surprised myself completely. This is not, making a dietary change was not something I thought I could do. And I said that to many doctors. I was like, it's not me. I just can't do that. And if you start simple, like you've been giving these really kind of simple tips, start with that one habit. It can grow, right? It can grow into a lifestyle. I think that word lifestyle might scare people. I think I have to change everything, but starting with just one thing can grow from there.
Yeah, that's so true. And I see that a lot, how when people take that leap and decide to make one healthy habit change, it does lead to them making other healthy habits. So, and a good example of this would be exercise. A lot of times when people start exercising, they often just kind of naturally develop a healthier lifestyle. They start eating healthier, drinking more water. They may start going to bed earlier if they have an early morning workout. And, it isn't even necessarily something that they were trying to do, but just that one healthy habit, it put into effect a whole other string of healthy habits.
Absolutely. And you know what? Another thing that kind of comes to mind is I think that people are very motivated to do things like this, to exercise, to eat better, because this idea of what we should look like, right? And we're doing it maybe for the wrong reasons. I mean, you're the professional here. Feel free to let me know if I'm misstepping. But it seems to me, and again, coming back to my own personal stories, I thought, I want to look good in my wedding photos. Like, I'm going to have those. I want to, I've worked way too hard planning this party to not, to have my skin go crazy because I can't cut something out of my diet. And it really wasn't about that at all. And it wasn't until I realized that I was making the change for myself and not for someone else who might be looking at my wedding photos on Facebook, that I kept it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, people are motivated by so many different things. And, if that's what gets it set into motion, then, that's great.
It seems to me to keep that, though, it has to be that commitment to self. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah, because we see this all the time. There's so many different diets out there. People will stick to it for a few weeks or, maybe a month or so, but then it just kind of all goes by the wayside, And that's why I really think that making the lifestyle change and not going into the dieting so much, that's really the more practical and the more long-term. And I think it makes people feel a lot better because it was a choice that they made.
Yeah, it's, especially when the term is fads, right? Fad diet, that's why it's a fad. It's not been proven to have that long-term effect. I don't know if you were able to hear kind of that list I was running down from Hippocrates, and if you haven't checked them out, Des, that's amazing. I think you would. I went to visit the center last week, and we're going back out next week for a tour and to eat at their raw food cafeteria. It's just an incredible place. I think you would really love to check that out. But on their list, it was very important that they mentioned hydration, right? Drinking pure water. What kind of importance does that have on our lives?
So important. It's so important to stay hydrated. And Bree, I read recently a statistic that said that up to 75% of Americans are not drinking enough water and are functioning in a state of dehydration, which is just crazy that 3/4 of our population are walking around dehydrated. And they don't even know it. So I just wanted to give out a few signs of dehydration, what that might look and feel like.
Please.
So that would be low energy, feeling irritable, having a lack of focus, getting frequent headaches, dry skin. And I think these are symptoms that a lot of people are just walking around with and have just kind of accepted as normal. And of course, some of these are general, and they could be attributed to other things as well. But, it's really surprising how much better someone might feel just by drinking a glass of water. And sometimes people aren't really sure how much water they're supposed to be drinking. We always hear that 8 glasses a day, which is a good reminder. It stays in people's minds. And I think you may have actually said this might have been on the Hippocrates list, taking your weight, dividing it in half, and then that's the number of ounces you should be drinking. Is that what they recommended?
Yeah.
Yep. And so that's what I tell people too. So if someone weighs 150 pounds, you should be drinking 75 ounces of water each day, which I don't think most people are drinking that much.
No. What does that I mean, I'm kind of bad with measurements. So what does that look like? What does 75, just as a reference point, 75 ounces look like throughout the day? In terms of a regular size bottle of water, a regular dinner glass.
Yeah, I think that would be probably like between 9 and 10 cups. So, which a cup, is pretty small. You can put a couple of those into a water bottle. So maybe like 5 water bottles a day.
That's a lot.
And I don't think many people are drinking that much. And honestly, most people are drinking sodas or sports drinks or juice, which those really aren't the best choices because they're all full of sugar, which actually dehydrates you. So it's kind of counterintuitive.
Sure.
So I always recommend that people try to carry around some kind of water bottle throughout the day. Otherwise, they're going to just forget to drink. You get so busy. So I always have a big bottle of water that I carry with me, and it's just become second nature now. I don't even think about it. I just, it's a habit for me to carry my water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, making it habitual. This is another area that I definitely struggled in. I mean, and not proud to say it because as a vocalist, it's even more important. But it was just not something that was a habit for me for a long time. And not to do product placement, but I wondered if you've actually heard of this, Des, the Nuun, N-U-U-N tablets, electrolyte tablets. Have you ever heard of that?
I have heard of them. I don't know too much about them.
Changed my life. Put it in a water bottle. That's it has totally got my electrolytes back on energy. Lightheadedness is down, and it flavors the water, so it's not just water over and over again, and it's really good. And those who are listening that know me know this is not something I would ever do before. So if I can make these changes, trust me, anyone can. So that's why I have to share, because this is not things that I've done my whole life. And right before we go to another quick commercial, I just want to touch on, this is huge. This is so huge, and I see so many of my friends and family members not following it. The importance of getting enough sleep. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, I think we all know how important sleep is. I mean, we've heard about sleep since we were kids, how important it is. But I think as we get older and we get so busy and we're balancing so many different things, our sleep we're not getting the amount that we need. And sleep is a very important part of lifestyle. Whenever I'm seeing a client, I always ask how they're sleeping because it's so important. Like, that's how our body recharges. And I read a statistic recently that said that 40% of Americans don't get enough sleep. And, that honestly seemed a little bit low to me. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually more.
I agree.
And it really affects our health. I can definitely speak to this. I know that when I am not getting enough sleep, I am not functioning the way that I should be. Mm-hmm. And I think it's something that so many people can relate to. So, the average person needs about 7 to 8 hours of sleep. But some people need more than that. Some may need 9 or even 10 hours of sleep. So that's kind of an area where you need to tone into your body and just know what you need and just do your best to get that. And a lot of times people say, like, well, I'll sleep on the weekend, I'll catch up on sleep. You cannot catch up on sleep. It doesn't work that way. You need to be consistently getting that 7 to 8 hours and trying to go to bed at the same time each night. I know sometimes it's easier said than done.
So important, though. I think it's a big area to focus on that not as many of us as we should do. So I love that we're shedding the light on that. Going to go to one more quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how Des can help you if you're interested in learning more about this and how you can get in touch with her. So stick around.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Beynon. I have on the line, all the way from Rochester, New York, Desiree Bass. She is a music therapist, board-certified music therapist turned nutrition counselor with her Master's of Science in Applied Clinical Nutrition. Thanks again so much, Des, for calling in tonight.
Of course, thanks.
Absolutely. You've been giving us a plethora of tips throughout the evening, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like you said, this is a process where it's just like, I think people think, oh yeah, I'm going to get a personal trainer to help develop my physical goals. That makes total sense, but maybe not so much to work on my nutritional goals. And it's just as, if not even more important. So before we kind of continue the conversation for a few more minutes, I just want to make sure we don't run out of time. If people have any questions for you, or if they want to seek out your services, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure. My office number is 585-334-7555. You can always reach me there. Or you can also visit my Facebook page, www.facebook.com/Desiree Bass Nutrition.
Perfect. If someone, people might be listening in Florida or other areas, is outside of the Rochester area, are you still able to help them either by phone or maybe point them in a direction?
Yeah, absolutely. We could, always do a phone interview or meet over Skype. And yeah, if you're looking for someone in the Florida area, I can do my best to help connect you with someone.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so Facebook page, Desiree Bass, and what is also on the Facebook page? Is it just your name? Does it have a business?
Desiree Bass Nutrition.
Nutrition, perfect. And the phone number one more time.
Area code 585-334-7555.
That's great. And again, she's based out of Rochester, New York, but is able to communicate via phone or Skype. If you're outside of that area, would like to do an interview with Des, just to find out a little bit more about what she does, how it can help you. I know it's helped me just having this brief conversation with you. We've got a couple minutes left, so I do want to just say, sometimes you have experiences like me where you just get kind of slapped in the face with a situation and it's just time to make a change. So, what's your advice for telling people, maybe even preventatively, of just how to know when your body is telling you it's time to make this change?
Yeah, and honestly, that is the reason that a lot of people come to nutrition counseling, because they just maybe have tried other things, it hasn't worked, and they just know that it really is, it's time to do something and they need to get some answers. And a lot of times we are able to figure it out. So yeah, if you are at that point, I would just encourage you to find someone. And that, this speaks to all areas of life too, not just nutrition. If you're finding that you need help in whatever area, whether that be through a nutrition counselor or seeing a mental health counselor, it does help. And it is important for people to get the support and the direction that they need.
There's no time like the present, right? We're often, especially those of us who are professional personal caregivers, we put these things off for a long time, most of the time for too long. But it's never too late, I would imagine. Would you say, Des, to make these changes?
Absolutely.
So please, I hope that if you've been interested by listening to this conversation, you will reach out, maybe do some more research for yourself first, but also find a professional in your area or contact Des. She gave her phone number to us. Again, she's based out of Rochester, New York. Her Facebook page, Desiree Bass Nutritionist. Reach out. This is something we're not talking to a small group of people here. This is something I would imagine a majority of us in some way, whether it's the hydration, the sleep, the nutrition, the traveling, and don't have enough time to prepare meals. This affects all of us in different ways. And I love that, you've got here, Des, a big point is, making time for yourself, part of that self-care. And how does nutrition fit into that?
Yeah, and that's so important, especially for people who are busy, healthcare professionals or people with families. You know, I know a lot of busy moms or people who are caring for elderly parents, you know, like, and I think that a lot of times we get so caught up with taking care of other people that we're not focusing on ourselves. And it's so important to listen to your body, know what your body is telling you, and just commit to your health. You know, like, we know that we commit to the health of others, but it's so important to commit to your health, and to do things that you enjoy, do things that help you de-stress, and to feed your body the things that it needs to function properly.
I love that. What a perfect note to end on. Come back to your health. Again, thank you so much, Des, for calling in, taking the time. Really appreciate all the tips you've given us. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week. Do something for yourself. Come back to your health. I love that. I can't say it any better. Have a wonderful week. Take care. Listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. We hope you enjoyed today's program and discovered new ways to bring music, art, and dance into your home or workplace. Please find a copy of today's show at pbmti.com. If you have any questions for our guest or myself, please email me at Bree, that's Bree, at pbmti.com, or call the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute at 561-747-9944. Tune back in next week for an all-new live show. See you then.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its host